reply.
My Lords, I rise to speak to Amendment 263, to which I was pleased to attach my name, and I thank the Noble Lord Coker for tabling it and providing a very clear introduction. And I have to welcome the support of the Noble Lady Baroness Neville-Rolfe for that amendment as well. I perhaps should declare, since we're doing lots of declarations, that I'm actually a supporter of the Institute of Customer Service with Respect campaign to add to our collection of organisations involved in this process. Now, I think we've already covered this in some detail, so I just want to add a couple of points. One is Noble Lord Coker referred to the fact that there is the legislation being brought in Scotland already. And I think there's particularly important to stress that there is a part of that as an aggravating offence if people have been trying to force the lure, for example, in the purchase of alcohol, etc. And I think that makes a very important point, that actually we're asking retail workers, often very low-paid workers, who may not have much in the way of protection, to actually enforce the law for us. And that's something that really does need to be acknowledged in the actual law. And I think we've had a lot of this discussion has focused on how difficult things have been during the COVID pandemic, and that's obviously true. But I think there's a really important figure from the British Retail Consortium, which is from 2019, so pre-pandemic. And then there was 455 incidents a day, which was up 7% on the previous year. So this is not just some COVID situation that might disappear should the COVID pandemic disappear. This is a long-term trend situation. And I think a recent survey also from the British Retail Consortium showed that of a survey of 2,000 workers over 12 months, 92% had experienced verbal abuse, 70% had been threatened, and 14% had been assaulted. This really, I think, has to be described as an epidemic. It's a word we hear a lot, but this is definitely very much the case. Now, I think I do also want to stress that, and here I may depart from the Noble Lady Baroness Neville-Rolfe, that I think this change in the law, which has been called for from all sides of your Lordship's House, doesn't excuse employers from doing more, particularly large employers who have the resources to provide security. Now, by the nature of my job, I'm very often travelling late at night, and having been speaking at a public meeting and catching the train home, and I go into chain stores on those occasions, and I often see very young workers, sometimes on their own, clearly feeling very exposed, very in danger, and I think it's very often the case that they don't have adequate security. And I think there's also a question to be asked, particularly of employers, about ensuring that these workers are paid properly, treated with respect, have decent conditions, and that will actually affect the way the whole of society looks at these workers and hopefully the way they get treated. So I think this Amendment 263 is important. As has been widely said, there's a huge amount of wide support for it. It doesn't excuse employers from doing much more. I would just say also that I understand the impulse of 264, but I don't think that's the way forward in terms of, we know that we have a record prison population. This is something we've debated in other parts of this bill, and that prison is not working. So just having a knee-jerk, let's make the offences longer, I don't think is the answer. I think there has to be a recognition of the fact that these crucial workers need protection, as in some form of 263.
Noble Lords who've said so much about